Evening all, welcome. So basically what we're looking at today is I guess a rekindling of the tactics series of videos. Really what we're trying to do, I guess, is a lot of the different game modes and such. I think this is, they're worthy of discussion. I think this is an ambush, and they're fascinating things, and I thought it'd be good to show you this video today. Really what happened was, this is actually filmed last night, and what we very quickly kind of saw happen was this is quite, I guess, a veteran-heavy map, or game rather. So on our side, we've obviously got a full squad of Darkstar. On the enemy side, we've got a full squad of Seraphim and their auxiliaries, and a number of Betamax, and very good players. So pretty much both teams had a smattering of good players. So. And it was interesting to me because when you see kind of what develops here, and again, I used the Flaylock for a bit, then I stopped using it. Trust me, stick with it. Because this kind of reminded me very much of the original ambushes from pre-Chromosome days, or rather Uprising days in Chromosome. So basically what used to happen back then was you would kind of establish a little beachhead, and then you would defend it, and pretty much this is what's happening here. So my Flaylock is absolutely useless. With explosive weapons, even things like mass drivers and Flaylocks and grenades even as well, you need to kind of be throwing down or shooting down. And I think it's interesting because the enemy team here, a small pocket of them at least, certainly captured a very good kind of mid-level vantage, which caused a few problems. So I guess that's kind of the topic for today, is how you kind of combat these. Now again, watch the counters here. As you can see, we're kind of losing, and our inability to kind of deal with this group of players who all running Proto, very good Proto suits. I think most of them were Cal-Logi, or at least Caldari. They're all Caldari suits, but you can never really tell if they're Assault or Logi. Either way, good fits, and they were very difficult. So Fluxes weren't terribly working either. So quite an interesting thing. Flaylock was just failing utterly. So I pretty much am getting fed up with it and starting to look to ditch it in this round. Again, it's tricky to kind of have an ideal weapon for this. Used to be the laser was pretty good for these kind of maps. You would kind of establish a beachhead and you would basically shoot down, and etc, etc. And it became quite a good tactic, in fact, to get kind of the high ground and shoot to and from these places. Now the thing is, it doesn't really kind of work on all matches. So this is a prime example of where instead of everybody kind of rushing around and bullying, let's say, this was where I think both teams decided to hunker down and basically shoot from a single point. So we, as you can see here, we're kind of massing here. A few people are kind of doing suicide runs, but both teams were basically just plinking at each other, which is awesome. I think it's nice to have these matches. I do find ambush can be a bit grating when it's just endlessly running around kind of like a headless chicken. I do get an enjoyment from being a bit more structured. It's interesting as well, I think, when you talk of the certain maps as well, when it comes to playing things like ambushes, that people will approach them very differently. For example, I don't think we saw a single tank this entire match. Maybe towards the end we do, but again, nobody was really tanking in this one, so it started to become quite an interesting scenario. Eventually people started to flank round, so again, really good use of kind of flanking techniques, trying to get kind of a crossfire going, and again, both teams are trying this, and neither team was really doing too well, as you can see through things like that. Oh well, never mind. But again, this is an interesting part of the game that I think is quite cool. So I came back with things like a TAC AR. Now I actually have like massive skills in invested in assault rifle. And it's only because I generally don't like them that I don't use them. I probably will try and use them a bit more. I think I'm keen to show that the assault rifle is a good vanilla weapon, and I think things like the TAC AR I've always been rather skeptical of, certainly since the changes came in. So this is actually my first time using it. Now I warn you now, I don't get many kills with it, but what I would say is it's actually quite a powerful gun, more so than I think it was before. It does feel it feels like it's ideal for the role that it was originally designed for, which is obviously mid-range, or I guess mid to semi-long range projectile firing. And I would say it's probably one of the best. While the laser rifle is still pretty sucky, I would say the TAC AR and things like the Scrambler rifle are probably your better options to go for. One day I'm sure they will sort out the laser rifle and it will be awesome again. But at the moment, I would say, you know, the TAC AR is a pretty good choice, actually. I think I was quite surprised with it. It does good damage, it's pretty accurate. It's not a completely OP weapon anymore. I think it's, you know, I wouldn't fire it from the hip because, you know, you basically will hit wildlife before you'll hit your enemy. But as you can see, look at that, you know, pretty good against shields, pretty good against our enemies. There we go, black, got ya. So I'm using the Devol, so naturally that's the, I guess, the top of the range one. So I think there's only one above that that's officer, which is any better. I think that's Corinne. I could have got that wrong, but effectively this is probably one of the better ones that, you know, money can buy. You need to be aware of the fall off as well with it, because after a particular distance it does very little damage, so just be aware of that. But as you can see, you know, it's pretty ideal for this kind of style of play, and I get the reason again I'm showing this is because it was nice to have an ambush where I don't think it was just full-on aggression. It was actually two teams pretty much standing off against each other and firing in firing lines and shooting each other, which is nice. I think that's why I was so surprised at it. I was actually quite charmed at it because it was good fun. It really was good. Maybe that's a play style we should look at. Maybe that'd be good to have an ambush style map, but where the two teams actually can't get to each other. Maybe they're fighting on two opposing skyscrapers or something. I know it sounds a bit dumb, but think about how funny that could be in terms of sniping and, you know, rockets, grenades, things like that, dropships and so on. So maybe one for consideration, but I think, you know, to me it just, you know, it kind of made me smile that it was actually not too bad. So I think in terms of the TAC AR, I kind of like it actually. I think I'm going to start using this a bit more. You know, it does take a bit of practice. I think it's like any gun in the game really. You do need to practice to get good at it. You know, things like the plasma cannon and stuff like that, they're pretty tricky to use. So, you know, I think you do need to put some time into them. Don't always just go and throw your skill points into something as well. I think there is merit in certainly trying out some of the lower tier stuff and seeing how you get on. Shotguns is probably a good example there. I think shotguns are not for everybody. I think some people maybe mistake what the shotgun does and is. For example, the shotgun isn't like the shotgun from Half-Life. You know, it doesn't have that kind of very, I don't know, I can't even describe it, that very kind of definite delivery. The shotgun in this is a little bit hit and miss. Think of it like a crazed, you know, shotgun on steroids, which is kind of staring in all directions. And I don't think that's a bug. I think that's actually kind of by design. It is supposed to be a very kind of, you know, almost like a devastation weapon. You run in, you start firing, and the spread is very wide. You know, the pellets effectively that leave the gun, you know, they've pretty much got a mind of their own. So it is, it's an interesting one. To me, I find it quite fascinating how the guns, I mean, shotgun is a staple of the first-person shooter the world over, and I think it's interesting how, you know, one game tackles it in a particular way, another game, you know, tackles it in a very, very different way. Some shotguns I've played, like Stalker, for example, the range on those things is ridiculous. They're very, very long-range guns, so, you know, what can you do? And I think the TAC AR comes into a very nice kind of thing here where, you know, I'm glad that they do have the different variants of the assault rifle as well. So, you know, not everybody is just running that awful, you know, repeat spam fire stuff. It's actually they're using a bit more precision, you know, a bit more, well, tactical. I think certainly other guns maybe would benefit from this. Maybe they need different variants of shotgun. Maybe that's something that would be pretty cool. Maybe you could have a shotgun. I mean, again, I know we've got the Breach, which is very high powered double barrel shotgun, but I actually mean maybe, you know, maybe there's things like different ammunition types. Maybe you can fit electromagnetic rounds into your gun that when it fires, it will basically overload a shield for time. You know, it's kind of cool. You know, give the shotgun a bit more of a role. Maybe even AV shotgun rounds, that might be quite funny, you know. I think also just to look at the way that lasers are used as well and scrambler rifles, I think there should almost be, you know, another kind of fire style for lasers as well, or maybe you can actually kind of guide with a laser then power a shot off like the scrambler rifle, I guess, but a bit more laser-like. But again, you know, I think I wouldn't say these are major omissions. I wouldn't say these are problems. I think already the guns in this game have quite a bit of variety, and I think you know, there are many different ways to use them as well. I think, you know, the way that people, I think, use TAC ARs and assault rifles and scrambler rifles is fantastic. There really is some some good skill out there. I think how I use the flaylock is probably an example of how you take a gun and you change its original purpose, you know, supposedly a sidearm. Admittedly, I think, you know, things like the SMG probably are more main guns than sidearms, but that's just my opinion. But I think, you know, a lot of the use of guns is always worth inspecting and seeing what you can do with. Like plasma cannons are meant to be kind of long, mid-range, shoulder-mounted thingamybobs, whereas the reality is people are using them as quake launchers because that's kind of what they're good at. You run around the corner, you see someone, you aim at his feet, blap, and then you watch him basically rain down around you. And I think that's probably what a lot of the use of certain guns are going into. And we look at this match. I don't know if you've been following the kill count. We were way behind by like 20 clones, and through a very nice battle of attrition, standing off and grinding and shooting, we've pulled it round so that we're in the lead by quite a few clones. And again, this is oh, there we go. And we win. And I think this is a great testament to how cool some of these matches can be. And look at that. That's the first time in a long time that I've actually won a match through the mission timer expiring, which again I guess sucks a bit, but it's not bad. It's quite a nice thing to experience once in a while, where you have a very different change of pace. I think also a lot of the maps could benefit from something like this, where, you know, I think a reduction or a different way of playing is maybe encouraged. At the moment, it is a little bit kind of run and gun too much, but then, you know, is that a problem? Probably not. So there we go. Hope you enjoyed that. Some musings on tactics. I think the standoff and the kind of standoff and defend tactic is certainly worth a go. It does make a very different game when you're just basically saying, right, don't run around, just this point here, defend it. You can do this in skirmish, particularly in domination, obviously. So it's pretty fun. Hope you enjoyed that. See you next time.